It's 11 o'clock. Welcome to On the Record, everybody. This is a brand new workshop series where we're going to be every month just getting into the home recording studio thing. Whether you've just started doing this, you're interested in doing it, or have been doing it for a while and just need a little assistance, everybody has a place at the table here. So the last one, the first one we did, introduced a lot of concepts, went through a lot of very, very basic information about plugging in, having the right cords and cables, connections, levels, and so forth. Now that we've covered that, it's just time to jump right in and just start doing recording sessions every single month. So we'll go start to finish today. And let me show you, first of all, what we're going to be using equipment-wise. I'll be recording at least 2 tracks of mountain dulcimer. So I've got the dulcimer here in front of me, and I also have this microphone, which I'll show you here in a second. What I'm not going to be using today is a condenser microphone, and I love the Rode NT1. That would be this right here. Condenser microphones are area microphones. They pick up everything in the area, and consequently, if you're living in a noisy neighborhood, it picks up everything in your neighborhood too. We have a fire station, a freeway right outside the window. So sometimes this is not great, and I have to use it when I know for certain that I can either roll off all of the low frequency stuff that's outside my window, or if it's late at night and I know there's not going to be a lot of traffic. It's midday here, so I decided to go for the dynamic microphone instead. Let me go ahead and switch the camera view so you can see what I'm using here. This is the Electro Voice RE20. It's a dynamic microphone, so the difference being it's more of a focus microphone as opposed to capturing everything. It basically captures what we point it at. But this isn't just any dynamic microphone, it's a broadcast quality dynamic microphone. So it's not just used for singing and miking instruments, it's also used specifically for voice, for broadcasting. So it's really got a great capture. It's got a great way of capturing tone. And you can even use it a little bit like a condenser microphone in that you don't have to eat it. You don't have to be right on top of it. You can be a little further back from it. One of the things I find that happens a lot when you mic a dulcimer or any stringed instrument that you are playing with a pick is that you get a lot of pick noise from the closer you are to the instrument. So it helps with this to be able to be a little further back than you would if you were using a conventional dynamic mic, because then you were definitely getting a lot of pick noise. You're aiming towards the middle of the fretboard or the top of the fretboard area. But if you aim your microphone down here where you pick, you're going to get a lot of pick noise. And if that's what you're looking for, then that's going to help you out. But if that's not what you're looking for, that may be a pain down the road when you're trying to do the mix and equalization and everything. So I've got the RE20 pointed towards the waist of the instrument. And I did a couple of test runs earlier, but I'm going to aim it just a little bit lower towards the top of the instrument. And what I had it right there was pointing at the fretboard. Now it's pointing at the right side top. A little bit more. That should make a tiny bit of difference in terms of getting the tone I'm looking for. Okay, so the first thing I've got back here is my audio interface. It's old as dirt, but it still works. This is the M-Track 8 by M Audio. So I've got 8 inputs. I've got 2 microphone inputs right there. I'm using this one right now to talk to you, and this is the one I'll be using to record the dulcimer. In the back, I have all of my 1/4-inch inputs. These are combo jacks, so I can put 1/4-inch or XLR microphone input, cords in there. But all my 1/4 inches are in the back. So I've got dulcimer going back that way, stereo. I've got a keyboard going back that way, stereo as well. And all of my controls are on the front there for each of the channels. You can even see my voice lighting up channel 1 right now. All right. And then down here, I've got a preamp. And this is what the dulcimer microphone is going through. This is a Universal Audio Solo 610 tube preamp. So there is an actual old-fashioned tube inside of there, and it is warming up the sound and making everything sound great. The two knobs I have on the front are gain and level. So gain is bringing the volume up, and it's really funny, they're labeled kind of weird, because typically gain is when you're adding coloration of sound, and level is just bringing the volume up. On this one, gain brings the volume up, and level actually increases the amount of coloration or saturation that enters the signal. So sometimes you want that, it really creates fatness and warmth. And sometimes you don't want that because it can distort the signal and give you a not true sound depending on the instrument. So you can see I've got a lot more gain than level here. So I don't want to color the sound too much, but I do like a little bit of it on there. So the microphone is plugged into the preamp, and then it comes out of the preamp with all of that rich signal, and then it goes into the audio interface. All right, let's go ahead and jump in and get something recorded here, and then we'll mess around with it. And I figure what I'll do, since it's already something in my head, is I'll do Hallelujah. I'll do a run through that and then do a little cleanup on it so we can talk about the setup here and I can get my levels. And then we'll go and take a look at the main screen. So once again, I've got the preamp all set up, and now I've got the RE20 aimed right where I want it. So my first step here is I'm going to, and you'll hear me talking, and it's not going to be perfect because you'll hear me talking in the background. We'll get a little bleed over, but I, of course, won't be talking when I play. I'm going to start bringing the microphone level up on channel 2. Until I start seeing some signal, and then I'm going to start playing. So I'm going to kind of gently tap. All right. There we go. That should be pretty good. And now, all right, so you can see that I've got my positioning here. The dulcimer's ready to go, and I'm going direct in. So you're hearing a combination of direct in dulcimer. The dulcimer is going into my line 6 helix, and I'm not doing any effects whatsoever. So basically this is just a pass through, but it's giving me a stereo output on the back, and I'm going stereo into the back. So if you've seen some of the stuff that Steven Seifert has done recently about recording in stereo using the XY pattern, there's that way to do it, and you've got the actual honest-to-goodness stereo recording of what you do. But you can also record with the one microphone and then process it to stereo. You won't have the absolute stereo being recorded, but all you have to do is change a little something in either the left ear or the right ear to get a little bit of that separation, and it will still come out stereo. So there's a couple of different ways of doing that. All right, this is a basic template in Logic Pro that I set up, and let me open up the mixer here. Well, down here I've got some reverbs. I've got a room reverb right here, and then I've got a hall reverb right here. It's always nice to already have all of your stuff set up instead of having to go and pick up your reverbs, your delays, and other things you might want to have on board. So I already have a high-pass filter set up. I already have a low-pass filter hooked up, and I've got my reverb on these two tracks. Let's talk about the high-pass filter here for a second. Even more important than the low-pass filter, this is for reverbs. And so it's going to be way, way up here. But for a lot of your recording, you're going to want to put a high-pass filter on there. Basically, it's going to take care of any low, rumbly frequencies that you do not want in your mix. And so you would take this thing and move it down here. Now, this is going to start sounding weird because I'm actually tapping into stuff. This is what I'm trying to clear up, is the murkiness. Let me get out of there now. And now you see it's gone. This is just on reverb. This is me cutting out all of this low frequency stuff. And if you don't do that, your reverbs will sound muddy and murky and contribute to the murkiness of your track as well. So I'm going through the system, and as soon as I got down here and let that low come back in, my voice is starting to do all kinds of wild stuff down there. That's the stuff that you don't want your reverb to sound like. So it's always good to just automatically put a high pass filter and a low pass filter on there to clean up the bottom and the top end of not only all your tracks, but your effects as well. And we'll adjust that reverb and stuff if I happen to use it. And we will time them to the tempo of the track, which I've decided, I guess, is going to be 133 beats per minute and 3/4 time. Let me close this up and we'll take a look at our tracks. So I've got the microphone, the RE20 right here, and I'm going to move this track up next to it because this is the direct dulcimer. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to hit R, and that's going to enable that track to record. And this is track 3 and 4, stereo or dual mono. And there's our signal. So you can either look at this up here where I've armed the track, or you can look down here at this fader and look at this meter right here. I'm going to click this to where it's empty now. There's nothing there. And I'm looking to get to around -10 thereabouts, -10 dB. -10 dB is going to be down here. And then all the way at the top is 0. And that's digital 0. Anything above digital 0 is going to clip and distort. In analog, you were able to push a little past 0 and it was okay. With digital 0, it's a hard set. You go past 0, you start getting it nasty. You can get right up to 0 and you'll start getting more aggressive in terms of your volume and your sound. So it's good not to push it too hard if you can avoid doing that, and leave what's called headroom between digital 0 and your highest point, your peak. So let's go ahead and strum on this, and let's get this to around 10. So getting a little aggressive, that got me to a 0.8. So I'm going to turn down my volume just a little bit. The slider, the fader right there, has nothing to do with my input level. That's all set either from the instrument or from the audio interface track level. Let me just dial it down a little bit. I don't want to get super loud, so maybe I'll let it go. I'm going to click here and reset this number. Now there, if I lean into it, I've got my -10, and that's good. I can honestly go to a 9, 8, 7. I'm only doing 2 tracks here, so I could take it a little higher, but I'm not worried about it. I want to leave that headroom. Those faders, the lights there, are green, and that's good. A little bit of yellow is good. Darker colors like an orange or a red, you're starting to get into the danger zone of getting a nasty signal. And we want to get a nice clean signal without any distortion. So -10 dB thereabout, all green with maybe a touch of yellow is going to give you a beautiful signal to work with. All right, so there's my direct. Now I'm going to arm the mic. And you can see if I lean in and talk, it's going, but I'm not right on top of it like I am now. So let me go ahead and strum, and let's see how the level is. And I'm going to highlight that so that it shows up over here so you can see what's going on. And there is some channel EQ on that for some reason. I'm just going to take it off. I think I clicked in there and it automatically set that up. Well, that's really boisterous. That's at -4. Let me clear that up and try it again. 5. So I could take that down just a little bit, even though I know I'll be playing something really cool and chill. And let me clear that one more time. Nice and gentle. It's a -8. I'm going to leave it. I'm just really playing super quiet. It's not going to be a big problem to be there. I'm not going to get anywhere near digital 0. So I've got my direct and my mic set. So what am I doing both of these for? Well, Our ears are perfect, perfect, perfect. Even if they don't work so great, they're still perfect. They hear stereo perfectly, they hear instruments perfectly, and nothing's going to sound as good as this mountain dulcimer on your lap and you listening to it. It's just great. But as soon as you record it, some of that greatness goes away, and we need to doctor it up a little bit to make it sound great. So to do that, we get the best of both worlds. We're going to take the microphone and we're going to record the natural ambiance of the mountain dulcimer. But then we're also going to go direct in and take that nice solid sound and blend the two of them together. So we have a nice foundation, plus we have all that nice ambient stuff at the top. We can use a little bit of each to create sort of, if you will, a Franken dulcimer sound, and it sounds great. If I were to do just a recording of the dulcimer with the microphone, I might choose to do, instead of a dynamic, use the condenser, so I get more of the whole range of sound. I also risk getting a lot of noise, but I will get a truer representation of the sound spectrum of the mountain dulcimer. If I record directly and don't do any microphone recording, it'll be nice and fat and direct, but it'll be very obviously not a natural sound to a mountain dulcimer. It'll have sort of a canned effect to it, even if you're using magnetic pickups. So that's why we want to take two of them and combine them together to give you the illusion of a truly well-rounded sound. Sound's a strange thing, because when we amplify stuff, we amplify all that's good about whatever we're recording, and we also amplify whatever is not good about it, which means we have to deal with that reality in the mixing phase. So recording the microphone and direct sets us up on a path for success in terms of what we want from our tone, because we have a lot more to work with. If I could record another microphone on here at the moment, I would, and then see what comes out of it. But this will be good for now. So we have that. Now, in case I want to go there, I've also got my piano set up here. And let me highlight that, take a look at where we're at. So that could afford to come down a little bit. Even more. And let me clear it one more time. All right. And again, I probably wouldn't bang on that too hard. That's right around 10.5. That'll do. All right. Now, I'm not going to record that right up front. That's a if I decide to go there. And then finally, I've got a software track down here for synthesizers and whatnot. And I do have a synthesizer hanging out, or a controller, a MIDI controller, sitting here underneath the keyboard that I can lay into. So if I go there right now, it's on Alchemy. And Alchemy is a synthesizer built into Logic Pro. It's got all kinds of cool sounds on it. So if I lay in here and play on it a little bit. Okay. The cool thing about the dulcimer that I've got here, the McCafferty, is that it's MIDI. So what I just did with the synthesizer, I can do the same thing with this dulcimer. Been wanting a dulcimer like this forever. And there it is. I can play synthesizers with it. Good stuff. All right. So I've tested all my inputs and the levels are good and I'm ready to fly. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got microphone armed. I've got direct armed. I've got my signals. And I need to get off of that track so it doesn't play. There we go. Now I've got a metronome and I'm going to use it. Here are the metronome settings up top. Click while recording. Don't mind if I do. And I also have a count in. And I've got 2 bars set. And that's pretty good for 3/4 time. There's my 3/4 time setting. I'm going to change the key. Why? If I choose to bring in any loops or anything into my recording, Apple or Logic will automatically just pull the stuff for your key. And if you're using a session player, the drummer, the bass player, they will also use your key to help figure out what what notes and what chords to play along with your music. We'll look at the session player, session drummer, and all that stuff somewhere down the road. Okay, so I am ready to go. I'm going to set this going, and I'm going to lay down the chords for Hallelujah first. And then I'm going to come back and do another track over and play melody. Here we go. All right, and once again, one of the lessons we learned from last month is when you're done playing, wait a long time before you hit the stop button, because even if you're wearing headphones, you'd just be surprised how much signal and how much sustain is still going. And then you get to your recorded track and you're ready to go and you're like, well, perfect take. And then it cuts off prematurely and you're like, no. You can always fade out probably earlier than that, but sometimes you just wish you had waited a little longer. So practice patience and let that just roll on out like I did just there. That was 2 times through Hallelujah. That's good enough for what we're going to be doing here. Now, I'm just going to check and see how things are sounding here. The first thing I want you to look at is the region itself. You'll notice, of course, that the direct region is a little fatter than the mic region, and it's because we've got twice the amount of energy coming in. We've got 2 inputs coming in, left and right. And it's also a nice solid. There's no air in there whatsoever. It's coming straight from the outputs of the Helix. Whereas this is a single microphone that's not very loud because we don't want to pick up too much clicking and other noise in the room. from the proximity factor. So I can actually make these a little bit bigger so that you can see the waveforms and what to expect. If you record and you can see very clearly these peaks and valleys, you're done a great job. If you record and your waveform is so big and so wide that it's touching the top and bottom of the region and they look flat, then you probably got too hot of a signal and that's clipping. Or maybe you were running a compressor and didn't know it and it really squashed the heck out of your signal. So you really want to see natural tops on your waveforms, peaks and valleys. If it's too blocky and all the same, you were way too loud and you're not going to have any dynamics in your performance. You also might have a touch of distortion in there that you probably don't want. Let's go ahead and listen and see how the balance is without changing anything. Now, for better or for worse, you can hear that clacking of the pick on the fretboard. There are ways to take care of that. Let's just solo. I'm going to take these off of, I'm going to unarm these because we're done recording on these tracks. I'm going to solo this. Solo means we're just going to hear the track that's soloed, in this case the mic track. Now, that sounds super light, and that's fine. We can boost the volume doing a number of different things. But is it a clean recording? Is it a recording that you can tell it's a dulcimer? I'm going to go ahead and turn the volume up on this. For a single dynamic mic, about a foot or so, less than a foot from the dulcimer, that's good. That's a really nice sound. Now let's just solo the direct and listen to that. That's super clean. That's also kind of super spooky. There's no pick noise whatsoever. Isn't that kind of weird? That's kind of like when you hear something that you know has been auto-tuned or using a synthetic singer. When you hear them sing but you can't hear any breaths. And you're like, something's missing here. I'm not sure exactly what. But together, they make a pretty meaty sounding track. So that's going to be fun to work with. Okay.